I've come up with three sources or three keys towards happiness. These are the three things that help me be peaceful and happy. So I wanted to share these with you. So the three things are number one, acceptance, which I've talked about in a video before in detail. Number two is gratefulness, and number three is detachment. So let's start with the state of acceptance. So as I've mentioned before, in the state of acceptance, the ideas of right or wrong, good or bad, greater or lesser do not exist. It is the state in which you acknowledge the reality. You don't ignore it. It's not ignorance. Ignorance is a totally different thing. In the state of acceptance, you acknowledge the reality and accept it as it is. And again, I've talked about acceptance in detail in my previous video, so check that out too. Now moving towards gratefulness, now that you've accepted the bad parts of your life, you have to start embracing and appreciating the good parts that you have in your life, like the people you love and the people that love you. And you could be grateful for your existence and the existence of all the things that bring you joy. And I also want to share a concept about the difference between pleasure and joy. So in pleasure, there's always a cycle. Everything that brings you pleasure would also bring you sadness, or whatever the opposite of pleasure is, unpleasantness. Okay, so if these clothes are giving me pleasure, it will give me pain when I don't have these. Or like the food that I have, if the food is giving me pleasure, the absence of the food would give me pain. Now, that is because pleasure is always from the outside and the joy is from the inside. The joy is in peacefulness, and like I've said before, happiness is just a mindset. You'd be happy in unfavorable situations too. So start trying to find joy within you and start looking at the sources of your happiness, and make sure those sources aren't from the outside world, because they would also then give you pain. Now that brings us to our third source of happiness, which is, now again, it's not actually sources, let's call them tools of happiness. Now the third tool is detachment. Detachment from everything, from the world, the things, the materialistic things, and detachment from yourself. So I first read about detachment in the book Think Like a Monk, and then I read about it in 40 Rules of Love. In Sufis, it is called To Die Before Dying, and that is when it kind of inspired me. Now we have a quote which I really like. The quote is from Yoda from Star Wars. Train yourself to let go everything you fear to lose. Now that includes all the materialistic things, social image, and the respect that you have from people. That includes like literally everything that you have. It also includes people that you love. Now in detachment, you know that you don't actually own anything. Everything is borrowed from the world, and now that you have nothing to lose, you don't fear anything anymore. When you have died before dying, Now, when you have lost the sense of self and you know that nothing belongs to you and you have nothing to lose, you have no fear and you become fearless, and you become happy, you become free of all the tensions and stresses about gaining things and losing things. You just get out of the cycle of victory and defeat, and I think it's a blessing to have this kind of detachment in you. Now that's all for today's video. I also want to mention that I have added 2 new things to my website, and I also want to mention that I have a website. I added 2 things, which are, so this is my website, and these are the 2 new things I added. These are 5 self-reflecting questions, and the other one is Ask Me Anything. Here you could write a question about whether you were in a situation or problem that you want to discuss, and I'd be happy to help. And you can also ask or suggest for a new topic to discuss in my video, and if I like your question, I would also mention in my next video, or I would reply you by email.